are with more front of the class real stories from real educators. Today, joined by Savannah Steger. And Savannah, to those in the education profession, how do you introduce yourself? What do you say that it is that you do and you're working on these days?
Good morning, Spencer. My name is Savannah Steger. I am an elementary school principal administrator. I worked in a suburb south of Charlotte, North Carolina, at a school. I have worn lots of different hats during my educational journey, which I'm sure we can get into. But super proud principal here today at the school. We have about 750 students. So
And with the wearing of different hats, can you maybe paint us a picture of where you
sure,
started in this profession to the meandering path? Maybe there was too many at one point. Maybe you kind of got back to one to principal.
yeah.
Can you help us understand kind of that
Sure. I
flow in
had
your career arc?
I guess comparative to others, a pretty quick journey to where I am today. I've taught in two different schools. No, I've taught in three different schools. I've taught two different grade levels. I started by teaching kindergarten, and then I moved to a new school and taught third grade. Taught third grade for maybe 3 or 4 years there, and then, our district is, rapidly growing, and so we opened a new elementary school. I had the opportunity to move to that school and kinda be part of the inaugural staff. So I moved there, taught 3rd grade there, and during that process was getting my educational leadership degree, because I had kinda decided I wanted to pursue something else. So I taught 3rd grade maybe 3 years there, and I had an interview for an assistant principal position that came open in our school district. I, took that job. I was an assistant principal for 3 years, and uh, this school that I'm currently at was being opened again due to all the growth, and so my first interview, for the principalship, and here I am 5 years later.
Incredible. All right. So assistant principal for 3 years,
Yep,
principal
pretty
now
quick.
for
Yes.
5 years. Um, thank you. And what, if you could help us understand what drew you to this profession in the first place? Is this one of those stories of I was teaching my stuffed animals at age 5? Is this a career change? Maybe thought you were going to do something else, change in college? What drew you to this profession in the first place?
A little bit of both. I definitely was that person who was teaching my stuffed animals. My best friend up the street growing up, her mom is a teacher, and it was back in the days where they had the teacher manuals, and so her mom would bring home her books, and we would play school all the time. However, I bucked that pretty hard for a while. I actually started school for broadcast journalism, and so I decided I wanted to pursue that when I went to college. I did that for a year and a little more. And then as I kinda traveled on that journey a little bit. I felt like I still just had this calling as much as I didn't wanna admit it of going into education. So I ended up transferring. Will not abs I'll be honest, I transferred I wanted to do elementary education, which, in our state was certifying, you for grades 2nd through 6th grade. However, our state offered a student loan forgiveness program for areas of need, and early childhood education was on the critical area list, which certified you for kindergarten through 3rd grade. So I always kind of went into it thinking I would want uppers, um, even middle or high at some point. However, I was trying to be fiscally responsible, and I took that student loan forgiveness program, did early childhood, and ended up falling in love with the babies, and so ended up finishing my degree there. I did piddle around in some different master's classes trying to decide. I thought maybe I would want to pursue like a master's in literacy or reading or some area of specialty. But as I did different roles out on the grade level chair, took some leadership positions at our school. I really wanted to kind of maximize my reach and felt like I had something to offer, and so I went into administration.
Thank you. And incentives do work from what
Yes,
it sounds like right there.
yes,
Student loan
that's
forgiveness, thought I'd teach
right.
older kids. Then, oh my
Yep.
gosh, they're offering what? Actually, do you recall out of curiosity what that student loan forgiveness plan looked like? For example, is this, hey, 10 grand of student loans forgivable, forgiving 2 years? Like, do you recall any of the high level terms of what that incentive
I
looked
am
like?
probably going to butcher it. However, I there was something like it. There were two areas. So there's a critical need, like a geographic need if you teach in a critical need area, and then there's also a critical subjects area. So You could double your amount of
Mm.
forgiveness by teaching both a critical subject area and a critical geographic area, or one or the other. I want to say I'm probably going to get this wrong, but I want to say they forgave like a certain dollar amount per year, and then every year you taught, that chunk just came off your total.
Yeah, incredible. And one last quick question, if you
Yeah.
recall, do you recall where did you find out about this? State level, federal level? Where, like for those who might be like, oh, I can do that. Where
Yeah.
might people find out more about
That
this
was a
program?
state it was a state level program, at the time. I'm sure it's still out there given that we are still searching for teachers everywhere, so I would definitely, contact the financial aid office at whatever university and see what your options are.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Um, Well, now we're talking, in administration for the last 8 years, assistant principal,
Yep.
principal.
Yes.
Can you
Wow.
maybe share a little advice, especially because you spent time as a teacher before, now you're on the other side, so to speak,
Yeah.
of maybe for newer teachers, um, how, if at all, should they uh, pursue talking to you to be on the same page with the administration to get the most out of what you're trying to give them? Maybe what are some tips and tricks of how to partner if you're a young teacher with the
Mhm.
administrative side, what to do and maybe what also not to do? What are some things that you've seen really effective teachers do well or not do well?
Yeah. What not to do is be scared.
Mm,
We are all people. We have all walked in the teacher's shoes or in some role in a school. Something has brought us here. And so one of the things that I am uh, really a stickler on is hiring the best people. And so I feel like that it changes schools, and we always hire for heart. So, that's something you can't coach, can't teach, and so I truly believe that, if you're working with me, and hopefully if anyone is in this profession, they have a heart for kids and, wanna see them succeed, and I believe that really everything stems with from communication and relationships. So for me, I always like to schedule meetings, especially for my new teachers, and just know who they are as people. But I think sometimes, I can remember being in the teacher's shoes, just being scared of the administration. But really and truly, I mean, we go home at night and cook dinner and go to sleep just like everybody else. It's much more of we just have relationships. So I think what are your interests and hobbies inside school and outside of school? Who makes up your family and your friends and your support system? What are your goals for this year? How can I support you? So I really feel like when that wall is up between teachers and the administrators, I think that the students can feel that. And so really we're all here for the same thing. We're all here to put children first and to make sure that they are becoming the best little people that we can make them. And so I really just think it goes back to that relationship and communication, having those frequent, not all they don't all have to be long, even quick check-ins, but just talking.
and I think you alluded to a couple of those things, getting to know your teachers as a
Yeah,
person, just talking proactively, having those one-on-one conversations. So that may be the answer here. But
yeah.
anything else you can share around, you know, what are things that you saw the administration do well when you were teaching that maybe think, oh, I want to do more of that? Or what are some things that maybe you have uniquely done to try to bring down those walls based on maybe how you didn't want to do it, based on how you saw others acting as administrators? So maybe what have you been able to steal, so to speak, from those who you thought did it really well? And yeah, what are you uniquely doing that maybe you always wanted to see your administration do, and now you're in a position to be able to do it?
I think that's a really great question. When I think back to the most effective administrators um, I've had the opportunity to work with over the year, I feel like there was just something about them that you knew, you're gonna hear me say it a lot, but that heart piece, right? And so they know, you believe them, right? So when they talked, it meant something. They motivated me. I trusted them. I think that's a really big key, that whether I liked the decision or whether it was easy for me at the time or whether I understood it or disagreed with it, I knew it was coming from a place of, trying to do what they felt was best. And so, I think that I have tried to take that with me. I also, I think this answers your question in both ways. Uh, I think it's really important to have administrators who are knowledgeable in instruction. it would always it could feel frustrating, receiving critical feedback or suggestions or things like that from someone who hasn't necessarily walked the walk, and isn't willing to learn and grow alongside of you. And so I think that instructional leadership here at our school now is something I'm really proud of. They know we'll jump in. We have assistant principals who lead intervention groups. We're ready to learn and jump in right alongside them, participate in coaching cycles, work in groups with kids, just really being lifelong learners.
Yep. And anything we're recording this now, kind of the end of May. We're almost near the end of the school year.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you are really looking forward to? Maybe in the next 2 weeks, or maybe the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months as you prepare for the next school year. So you pick your time frame, which might just be, oh my gosh, this is the crazy time. I can't wait for summer. But yeah, what if anything are you really looking forward to in your role over the next 2 weeks to 6 months? You pick the time frame.
I was we're actually out of school, so we ended,
Oh, okay.
so it's yeah, it's, we ended a little early this year, and we're our school district is embarking on a new school calendar for the upcoming year, so I'm really excited about that. It's, prioritizing just some additional breaks in the middle of the year, so we have a little bit of a shorter summer, but have more break times for teachers built in, to the year. They have a week in October, a week in February, in addition to all of our normal standard breaks, which is amazing. I think that will do wonders for the mental health of the grown-ups and the children in the building. Um, but like I said, I've been here for 5 years, and this this job, this building that we've been in, I started in COVID, so I've had a really unique experience in, my principalship here, and so this past week, I guess, 2 weeks, we had our 5th graders, reach their 5th grade promotion, and so they are getting ready to go into middle school next year, and this is really, every class that comes up, we've spent more time with them. So this has been 5 years with some of these kids. This upcoming year will be our first group that has come through kindergarten through 5th grade. So, I found myself kinda, I guess, chuckling at myself a little bit. 2 weeks ago, I was sitting on the couch, my husband and I, we had put our son down, and, I was so emotional, and that's not me, but I was looking at pictures and thinking about these kids that you spend so much time with and you just pour into and you see grow up, and then they go. They fly the nest, they go to the next school where, I know all these teachers and administrators are gonna do equally amazing things with them, but, it's hard, you grow these attachments and connections, and then they leave, it's hard, it's beautiful, it's why we do what we do, but it's really special, getting to have our first group go all the way up, so I'm, both dreading in a little bit of a way and super excited for next year just for that purpose.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Incredibly one of those classic bittersweet moments, like super proud and also super
Yeah.
sad at the exact same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
You mentioned changing the school calendar. Could you get into a little bit of how that happened, why that happened? Is that all you? How much do you have to work with, as in a public school with the state? Like, is that mandated? Is that done in a way that's kind of, hey, here's what our teachers are wanting. Okay, well, we'll consider that if you do this. Like, how does something like that end up actually happening, and how much do you have a hand in being able to proactively kind of make what seems very simple, but I'm sure is logistically a massive challenge to do something like that?
Yeah, I think that's a huge misconception is that people think, building administrators really have more to do with that than we do. Our district office has an amazing, department and, kinda some people who work on calendars. Our school board has to approve it. In our state, there were some laws and provisions in which, you can't start school before the 1st Monday in August, I think is what it was, or, I can't remember the specific provision, but, so they've been working for a while, and there's always that tough summer. So last year was that for us. We had a really short summer, so we could start early, in order to be able to end early to have a decent amount this year. So the department at our district office usually puts together a few drafts, and they present those to the school board. The school board then, receives public feedback. So the public is able to comment and offer suggestions. there's a lot that goes into the school calendar. I mean, you have obviously things that are really important to me as an elementary school principal, which is, teacher burnout, student burnout, state testing, all of those things are really important. You then have the high school side, which are worried about balanced semesters. When can they get exams in before or after winter break? When is graduation? So there's a lot of different moving parts. So kudos to our district office for managing all of that, and creating a calendar that keeps all levels happy. But I'm excited about this one. I think it will give families some nice time. Sometimes it can be hard to get all of your travel in for the 10 weeks of the summer. So this gives a little bit of breathing room, a fall break, just like a college has, a winter break in February. And so I think I looked yesterday, the longest stretch we have without a little bit of a break next year is 6 weeks.
Hmm.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, there's always just a little break around the corner. That
Yeah.
helps a lot. That
Yeah.
helps a lot. Well, I'd love to hear more, and some of these can still be in the administrative side, but also maybe these stories are going to be more when you were teaching. I'd love to break
Yeah.
into some more fun, memorable, maybe wild, crazy stories in the classroom. So, is there anything that strikes you that comes to the top of just proudest moments in this profession? Just something that still makes you smile, or something that maybe you can tell 40 years from now you'll look back like that was a really special moment. So
Yeah.
anything really come up to the top for you?
Um, I think the proudest moment I have ever had is during COVID. The schools had shut down, and we did a lot of schools did them, but we did one of the car chains when we all the teachers and staff met at the school, and we were socially distant, and we decorated our cars and made posters looking for specific kids, and we did a route, and we drove by every single house, by every single student. So we didn't just do the big neighborhoods. We did every single home that was lived in by one of our kids. And we drove a whole train. It took forever, and it was incredible. Every single family was out on their lawn. The kids were out there seeing their teachers, the people who meant the most to them. But it was a really abrupt stop. And obviously, something none of us had ever experienced before. But being able, again, it's your why, right? It's why do we do this, and it's them. And so all of the attendance and tardies and grades and tests and lesson plans all went out the window, and it was really just about the people, and that is the core of what we do. And so, being able to see teachers show up, um, and kids know that their teachers loved them, and we're gonna go and do that for them. It was one of the coolest things I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, and I'm sure logistical and organizational
Yeah.
nightmare that I'm sure before you're like, are we really going to do this? This is so that then the end you're like, I'm so glad we did
Yeah, it was
that.
amazing.
Yeah, incredible. How about anything that maybe you consistently did in your teaching career that seemed to really work really well for you, and maybe you're surprised more teachers didn't do that thing or those things that seemed to work really well when you were in the classroom? Like anything that you really did consistently that was just again just worked really well for you?
I think, teaching is such an interesting job because the people you work with become like your family. And so I think for teachers, knowing that I'm sure this has been said here, but they need to give themselves grace. You cannot be good at everything all at once, all the time. So picking one thing to focus on is really important, especially in those first few years and being able to kind of slowly to ease in. I wish someone would have told me working on the weekend is okay, because it made me feel better as a first year teacher to be able to know I was prepared and had all these things. I think sometimes there's a stigma of, go home, leave. I know I do it to our new teachers. Make sure you're, spending time with your family and friends, but really, it's okay to spend time on the weekend, to make things cute, to do all the things. If it makes you a better teacher, that's all right. I think something that I did consistently is show my personality. I think it's important that the kids know who you are, and know things you like and don't. That you're still a person. And the other thing that I think I did consistently was show my friendships with my teammates. I mean, some of my teammates were my best friends during those years, and so I think the kids benefited from seeing us get along and joke and take care of one another, bring each other coffee, bring each other lunch, whatever it may be, check in on the weekend. I think it's nice for the kids to see that their teachers are friends.
Yeah, and it sets a model of
Yeah,
how to how to have relationships that they can then aspire to have relationships like that, even if they're 8, or to aspire to when they're an adult, of giving that role model example of like, oh, this is what
yep.
a
Oh,
healthy, fun adult relationship looks like.
yeah,
Um, One other thing that you hit on there is, some teachers might say like, "Yeah, I'll never work on the weekends." Like sometimes there's these never or always
yes,
rules that work for that person, but might not work for everybody. And one thing you said there is like, yeah, just give yourself grace, and maybe I'd add maybe experiment, right?
yeah,
Maybe for 2 weekends straight, potentially for a new teacher out there, like, yeah, do not look at your lesson. Don't do any work and just see how that feels. Does that feel good to have the separation? Did you need that to fill your cup? Or do you walk in Monday morning thinking, I'm unprepared. I should not have done that. I really wish I would have spent an hour yesterday just preparing. I feel lost. And then just check in with yourself of which one of those feels better, and then do more of what works for you. And you have the ability to experiment with
yeah,
some of those things to figure out what works for you, because what
yeah.
works for someone else might work for you, and it also might not, just depending on your unique strengths and what you bring to the table. So anyway, thank you for sharing that. And experimentation is
Yeah,
a
and
way to
everything
just,
comes in seasons, right? So I
yes.
think, in teaching especially, there's going to be really, really busy seasons, and you're gonna feel like, "I can't do this," and that's okay. Those are completely normal feelings to have. You should feel validated in feeling that, and there's gonna be slower seasons, and there's gonna be rich seasons. We just like I said, promotion is one of them. There's gonna be hard, and all of those have space and, can work together to make it's a beautiful career.
And on the note of, those sometimes hard times, or, a tough week, or even sometimes that tough week spills into another and a month, or maybe you're dealing with personal issues at the same time. Any examples that you might be able or willing to share of just, these are tough times in your career, and how did you bounce back? Or how have you seen others potentially bounce back from a tough day, tough week, tough month? Because we all have them, right?
Yep.
And sometimes just hearing others, I had it too. Here's how I got back to feeling normal again, is just helpful for others to hear. So anything that you might be able to share on that, tough time and bouncing back.
2 things. One is, again, it's your village, right? So you have to have the people around you who, A, are in education and can relate, and then it's important to have people who aren't, who can offer some perspective to life too. So, I think you have your teacher crew who can talk about, that specific child who you might not be reaching or bonding with yet, or a lesson that bombed, or whatever it is, whatever challenge you may be experiencing. It's important to have the teacher friends who can you can bounce ideas off of and who can resonate. And then also to have your outside circle who can just remind you you're doing important work. You're doing a great job. Because those are things I think teachers sometimes are very critical of themselves. And then two, one of the challenges in education, I feel like, is sometimes you don't see your impact or your ripple until many years have passed. And so, it's really cool when that happens, but you gotta give yourself a little bit of time. So I think it's really important to have a little smile file, whatever you wanna do, a box, email folder, just something as you get those affirmations and that validation throughout the year, and you build them up, and so whenever you need a moment, you can remind yourself of your reach and that you are making a difference.
Um, I like that. Um, uh, One of my favorite baseball coaches, teachers had a saying that was, the shortest pencil is worth more than the longest memory, because there's so many things that happen on a daily basis and you forget. But if you
Yeah.
write it down, it's very easy to remember that thing that happened.
Yep.
And the smile file or whatever it is, um, if you keep collecting those things, like it may sound narcissistic at first. I don't think it is, right? Like, oh, so and so said, thank you so much for teaching a great lesson today. So and so's parents said, uh, X positive thing. Like, write those down, because you can
Yeah.
draw a lot of strength from those in those moments that are tough or hard or tricky, to go back and remember, like, oh, that's right. There's been these 50 positive things that have said, or people's appreciations, but in the moment you forget about them. But if you write them down and keep them in a jar or whatever it is, pull them out and draw strength from that, because it can help get you back to help get you back to why you're doing this, or
Yes.
know that you are good. You're bigger than this particular moment that you might be in
Yes.
at that particular time.
Yes.
Anything that you did in particular, maybe on the first day of class, to set the tone, either with the students, maybe with parents, when you have that first meeting, like how when you were teaching, did you really go set the tone of what to expect in your class and what they should expect of you, both maybe with the students and with the parents?
I think it all goes back to relationships. So I think you've got to bring that class together as a family. I mean, you're in it together for 180 days, and you need to make sure that you are, you know what everyone desires to come out of that year. And so we always did like a class contract or a class. Can't remember what we called them, constitution and different things like that. Whenever I was teaching of things we're going to commit to each other. And so they could see what was important to me as their teacher. I could see what was important to them and what they wanted to learn. And then I think with parents, especially now, I mean, you want that first communication to be positive. As a parent, I want to know that my child is seen and is valued for who they are and is okay to make mistakes, and that's not going to be held against them or anything like that. So I think making sure that you have that first initial communication always be positive, making sure that reassuring them that their child is going to thrive under your care and that they can trust. I mean, it's a scary thing to drop off your kid every day at a place where you're not, and you put a lot of trust into a group of people to raise and kind of. I mean, that's kind of what you're doing is you're raising. I mean, they spend a lot of time at school, and so it's important, I think, that you have that open communication, that relationship, that positive teamwork and collaboration together.
And would you be able or willing to share maybe one or two or any examples of what was in your class constitution? Like what if anything did you call out?
It's okay to make mistakes. Okay to make mistakes. We're going to work as a team. I really honestly simple things. It's nothing profound, but what's going to happen when someone hurts our feelings? What's going to happen when our teacher feels like we're not listening, and talking through different situations. When you're feeling like I didn't hear you, how would you like me to respond? When you don't understand something, how would you like me to respond? How can I make you feel successful this year? What are your goals? Obviously, the older you get, you're going to get a little bit of a different conversation depending on the age group, but I feel like those are important conversations to have.
100%. And I'll never forget, the point of being okay to fail, right? Like I do
Yep.
remember back in school feeling like, oh, if you raised your hand and you got the question wrong, there's
Yes.
this sense of shame or embarrassment
Defeat.
or whatever it may feel, right? It just
Hmm.
feels like I put myself out on a limb and I failed and that's bad and I'm wrong, right? And I remember because of that, I would only raise my hand when I knew the answer. And even then, I wouldn't say it assertively. I'd say it with a question like, was
Yep.
it 1776? And I do remember one teacher finally had enough of this. And he's just like, Spencer, you know the answer. Say it with confidence.
Yep.
Um, and anyway, the reason I share that is because he already made it okay to fail. I knew
Yep.
that. And like I also knew, like you said, there's a trust, like he was looking out for best interest and he was tailoring the lesson a little bit more to me and what I needed versus
Hmm.
just generic advice, which I still remember. I don't know how many years ago that was, but many, many years ago. And I still appreciate him kind of trying to get me out of a shell of being okay to fail and know the answer. Like act like it. You did the reading, you
Right.
studied, like show that you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I always appreciated that too, coming from a different angle.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think you have to model that failure. They're
yeah,
looking to us, to show them what it means, how to react. If you fail, if you make a mistake, what to do, what not to do. And so I think you have to talk through that. A lot of talking aloud, and owning it, right? I mean, we're not perfect either, and so little things like I lost something, or I overslept, or to the point of, man, I taught that and that didn't go well. And that's okay. Like we're gonna come, but we're in again, we're in this together. Like we're a team, we're a family, and we're gonna try again, and that's okay.
one more question on kind of administrative side before we get into more some like quick hitter rapid fire questions. But how if at all, do you kind of look back at your year and say, "This was a really good year. I had a good year. I was able to do this for my school, my instructors, etc." Right? It's might be easier to think through as a teacher. How do you know you had a good year? Well, maybe test scores or the relationships I have with my particular 10, 20, 25, unit class. How do you judge that for yourself, kind of on the administrative side, especially as a principal? Like, how do
Yeah.
you look back and say, I had a good year, I had an okay year, I had a great year, I had a bad year. Here's what I got to do next time. Like, how do you, what metrics or feel do you look at the end of the year to kind of decide that and then figure out what to do next year?
So another thing a lot of people don't know is that principals, administrators usually go through some type of evaluation with their district office. So for me, I set goals every year. We have a leadership development position at our district office that helps us work through those things. So we meet 3 times a year to talk about how things are going. Different districts do things differently in how they evaluate. One thing I like to do at our school is I send out a survey at the end of the year, and they can complete it anonymously, or they can attach their name. And I try to tailor the questions to give me some pretty candid feedback about how things have gone. And so I actually have it all printed here as I'm working through it for this summer and try to plan. And you got to take the emotion out of some of that because really all a, we're all trying to do our best. So taking that out, I think I don't know. I'm a generally pretty reflective person. I really don't like to I just really don't feel like people working in education can fail because or have a failure of a year. I feel like that's too hard of a word because at the end of the day, if you are positively impacting a child's life, then you're doing good. And that can be small scale, that can be large scale, that can be academic, that can be emotionally, that can be in lots of different ways. And again, I don't think we work in a space where you see all of the fruits immediately. So I think I really just think reflecting on the work you do and the difference that you're making is enough.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thank you for that. Because it's always one like how do we decide if we're doing a great
Yeah.
job, good job? How can we course correct? It's just no matter what job you're doing, it's always a fascinating thing
Yeah.
to explore how people proactively choose to kind of think about that. Couple quick questions as we get here to rapid fire. As if you're talking to someone who is brand new to teaching, or maybe they're about to start teaching, what might be the number one piece of advice you would give to that teacher?
Give yourself grace
Hmm.
and pick one thing.
Pick one thing. Um, did you? I mean, I assume the answer must be yes. But did you get your master's, and if so, when and why that time, and what did that unlock for you?
Did get my master's. I had been a teacher for 5 years when I decided to go back. It took me 2 years to get my master's or 18 months. It unlocked, new positions. I got, like I said, my, educational leadership master's. More importantly, I went when I was an assistant principal, our district offered a class in, reading recovery. It was called, early literacy professional development partnered through Clemson University. And I took that when I was an assistant principal. And I feel like that changed me
Hmm.
and who I was as an administrator. I was in the trenches with lots of teachers it was really like a foundational literacy course. I worked with two students every day at our school. But I think going back, kind of just to take it back to that instructional leadership, being willing to walk the walk and learn and put myself back in those shoes, I feel like that sometimes when those opportunities pop and you just feel like your heart's calling you to do something, not necessarily easy. I mean, I was going to class one night a week and then doing several hours of coursework in the afternoon for no gain. There was no job coming out of it for me, but I feel like it really shaped who I was as a leader.
Hmm. And what is the number one single best thing about this profession to you?
Kids,
What about them?
they're awesome. Getting to be a part of their lives and hopefully a positive influence and to for them to have a safe space, a safety net, to know that somebody cares about them. That's all I can ask for.
And on the other end, what is the single worst or toughest thing about this profession, or the number one thing you would change if you had a magic wand and could just change it overnight?
Some government systems that
Mm,
kinda keep us locked into some things that we have to do.
mm. Um, and anything else that you would like to share? Last words of wisdom, anything else we didn't touch on at all you think is valuable, fun, et cetera, for maybe the aspiring teacher or the relatively new teacher out there, or anything that you said already that's just so important that you want to make sure it does not get lost and it gets restated. So, final new or repeated words of wisdom.
I just think I was actually, interviewing, last week, and, one of the candidates was saying how, she came from a family of educators, and they were always telling her, "Don't do it, don't do it." And that makes me so sad because, there are definite hard moments, right? And, but I feel like that's every career, and this is such a gratifying experience, and it is not always easy, and it's definitely a calling, but I feel like sometimes teaching gets kind of a bad rap, the pay isn't great, and, this is hard, and the principals don't know, and all the different things, and, I walked in all those shoes. I don't think that's true for everywhere that you work, and, I think I talk to a lot of people now as I'm getting older and they have established careers who are searching for meaning in their
Mm.
job. And I feel so, so fortunate that that is not something I fight with, because I can walk out at any given moment and know my why. So, yeah.
And if you don't mind, could you articulate what is that? Why?
Again, kids.
Yeah.
I think that yeah, that is the center of all that we do is nurturing and, helping our next generation of people be awesome human beings, and, that looks different for every single person, but I want every single kid I know to know that they matter and that they, are important and that they are loved and cared about.
Mm, perfect.
Yeah,
Well, Savannah, thank you so much for sharing your story from teacher to assistant principal to principal. Um, Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
of course, thank you.